The chandelier lights dimmed as I stood at the back of the ballroom, my fingers trembling against the sleek edge of the AV console. 300 guests pivoted toward the massive screen, champagne flutes catching the soft glow of candlelight. The bride's laughter rang out somewhere near the head table, that familiar, tinkling sound that once meant friendship but now made my skin crawl. "Is everything ready for the tribute video?" The wedding planner whispered, clipboard clutched to her chest. I nodded, not trusting my voice. "This is Olivia's special moment," she reminded me with a bright, professional smile. "The groom's family flew in videographers from Los Angeles just for this." Another nod. Another lie. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A text from my husband, Nathan. "Where are you? Video's about to start." "Saved your seat." I didn't respond. In 30 seconds, he wouldn't be wondering where I was anymore. The MC tapped his microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, James and Olivia wanted to share a special video tribute to their love story." His voice boomed across the ballroom. A journey that brought them to this beautiful day. My index finger hovered over the play button. Olivia stepped into the center of the dance floor, radiant in her designer gown, her new husband's arm wrapped around her waist. She caught my eye across the room and smiled. That same smile she'd given me 3 weeks ago when she'd hugged me goodbye after our lunch date. The same day I discovered she'd been sleeping with my husband for the past 7 months, I pressed play. 6 months earlier. "We need more wine," I announced, pushing myself off the couch where Olivia and I had been camped out for the past 3 hours. My socked feet slid across the hardwood as I made my way to the kitchen, the familiar layout of my home, a comfort in the darkness. "Meredith Parker, always the perfect hostess," Olivia called after me. "Even when we're just being pathetic on a Friday night," I laughed, retrieving another bottle of Merlot from the rack. Watching rom-coms and gossiping isn't pathetic. It's therapeutic. These monthly wine nights had been our tradition since college, sacred time carved out of increasingly busy lives. Olivia had been my roommate sophomore year, and despite our differences, her magnetic extroversion to my thoughtful reserve, our friendship had endured nearly 15 years. "Nathan working late again?" she asked as I returned, her eyes fixed on her phone screen. "Big project in Denver. The client keeps changing the designs." I uncorked the wine with practiced ease. "He should be home around 11. Olivia nodded, setting her phone down. "You guys are so stable." "I envy that," says the woman who just got engaged to Chicago's most eligible bachelor. I refilled our glasses. "How are the wedding plans coming?" Something flashed across her face, a momentary tightness, before her expression settled back into excitement. "Overwhelming. James wants a statement wedding. 300 guests minimum. I'm still honored you asked me to be a bridesmaid," I said, curling back into my corner of the couch, as if I'd have anyone else. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Besides, you're literally the only person I know who can handle my bridezilla moments." We fell into easy conversation about venues and dresses, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Olivia kept checking her phone, her laughter a beat too quick, her gestures slightly exaggerated. "Everything okay?" I finally asked. "You seem distracted." She looked up, startled. "Just wedding stress." Her fingers drummed against her thigh, a nervous habit I recognized from our exam days. "Actually, I've been meaning to ask you something. Would Nathan be willing to help with some of the architectural elements for the reception? We're doing this whole custom backdrop thing, and I know he has an amazing eye. I'm sure he'd love to," I said. "He's been putting in crazy hours lately, but I can ask him when he gets home." She nodded too quickly. "No rush, just whenever you talk to him." The front door opened then, keys jangling in the foyer. Nathan appeared in the living room doorway, his tall frame silhouetted against the light from the hall. "Ladies' night," he said with a tired smile. "Should I make myself scarce?" "Don't be silly," Olivia replied before I could speak. "We were just wrapping up." I frowned slightly at her sudden eagerness to leave. Usually, our wine nights stretched well past midnight. Nathan moved into the room, setting his laptop bag on the side table. "How's the wedding planning going?" "Speaking of," Olivia said, standing abruptly, "I should get going. Early appointment with the florist tomorrow." She gathered her things with unusual haste, avoiding Nathan's gaze. I walked her to the door, puzzled by the shift in her demeanor. "Everything okay?" I asked again, lowering my voice. "Perfect," she said, hugging me tightly. "Just tired. I'll call you tomorrow." As I closed the door behind her, I noticed Nathan watching from the hallway, his expression unreadable. "You're home early," I said. "Meeting finished sooner than expected." He ran a hand through his dark hair. "How was your night with Olivia?" "Fine. A little weird at the end there." "Weird how?" I shrugged. "I don't know. She seemed jumpy when you got home." Nathan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then quickly slid it back into his pocket. "Pre-wedding jitters, probably. I'm going to grab a shower." I nodded, watching him climb the stairs, a strange heaviness settling in my chest. Something had shifted in our easy rhythm over the past few months, subtle enough to dismiss, but persistent enough to notice. Extra hours at work, distracted conversations, a growing distance in bed. I gathered the wine glasses and carried them to the kitchen, telling myself I was imagining things. Nathan and I had been married for 7 years. Every relationship had its ebbs and flows. My gaze fell on his laptop bag. The zipper was partially open, a folder peeking out labeled Helix Project. The Denver project, I assumed. Without thinking, I slid it out, curious about what had been consuming so much of his time. The folder contained preliminary sketches and material samples, beautiful work, as always. Nathan had a gift for blending modern lines with organic elements. I was about to return the folder when a loose paper slipped out. A hotel receipt from the Conrad Chicago, dated 3 weeks ago, but Nathan had been in Denver 3 weeks ago. He'd called me from his hotel there each night. I stared at the receipt, my brain scrambling for explanations. A billing error. A colleague's receipt accidentally mixed with his papers. A surprise he was planning for me. The sound of the shower running upstairs seemed suddenly distant, as if coming from another house entirely. I carefully returned everything to the folder and zipped the bag closed, my hands moving with mechanical precision while my mind raced. That night, lying beside Nathan in the dark, I listened to his even breathing and tried to ignore the questions multiplying in my head. I told myself I was overreacting, connecting dots that weren't there. But as sleep finally claimed me, Olivia's nervous fingers drumming against her thigh played on a loop in my dreams. The pieces came together slowly over the next few weeks. Nathan's sudden interest in his appearance, new clothes, a different cologne, the guarded way he checked his phone, work dinners that ran inexplicably late, and Olivia, her decreasing availability, the vague responses to direct questions about wedding planning. Despite asking me to be a bridesmaid, I became a reluctant detective in my own marriage, searching for evidence I didn't want to find. I hated myself for it. The furtive glances at his call history, the knot in my stomach when his phone buzzed with a text. "You're being ridiculous," my best friend Zoe insisted over coffee one morning. "Nathan adores you." "And Olivia? She's been your friend forever." "Something's off," I insisted. "I can feel it." Zoe studied me over the rim of her mug. "Then ask him, directly. This whole amateur sleuth routine isn't healthy." She was right, of course. But every time I worked up the courage to confront Nathan, I lost my nerve. What if I was wrong? What if this was all in my head, paranoia born from insecurity? Then came the fundraiser gala for Nathan's firm. A black tie event at the Art Institute, with clients and partners and a silent auction. Nathan had been on the planning committee, working late hours to ensure its success. I wore a navy gown I'd been saving for a special occasion, determined to reconnect with my husband amid the glamour of the evening, to remind both of us what we had built together. We arrived fashionably late, the grand staircase already crowded with Chicago's architectural elite. I scanned the room, nodding at familiar faces while Nathan went to get drinks. That's when I saw her. Olivia, radiant in a crimson dress that hugged every curve, her dark hair swept up to reveal the elegant line of her neck. She wasn't supposed to be here. She had no connection to Nathan's firm. She hadn't seen me yet, her attention focused on something across the room. I followed her gaze and found Nathan at the bar, watching her with an intensity that made my stomach drop. A silent conversation seemed to pass between them, intimate and practiced. In that moment, I knew. The truth landed like a physical blow, stealing the air from my lungs. I must have swayed because a hand steadied my elbow. "Are you all right?" A woman I recognized as one of Nathan's colleagues peered at me with concern. "Fine," I managed. "Just a bit warm." I made my way to the ladies' room, locking myself in a stall as tears threatened. My hands shook as I gripped my clutch, desperately trying to regulate my breathing. The bathroom door swung open, heels clicking against marble. "I can't talk long," Olivia's voice pitched low. "He's with his wife." My heart stopped. I lifted my feet slightly, praying she wouldn't notice my shoes. "Yes, at the bar," she continued, presumably on her phone. "No, James couldn't make it. Board meeting in New York." A pause. "I know what I'm doing, Cassie. It's complicated." Another pause. "It's not just physical. Nathan understands me in a way James never could." I pressed a hand over my mouth, muffling a sound between a gasp and a sob. "I have to go. We have a plan. I'll call you tomorrow." The sync ran briefly. Then the click of heels retreated, the door swinging shut behind her. I remained frozen in place, my entire world collapsing around me. Nathan and Olivia. My husband and my friend. When I finally emerged, my face carefully composed after splashing cold water on my cheeks, I found Nathan searching for me near the entrance to the main hall. "There you are," he said, relief evident in his voice. I was getting worried. "Sorry," I replied, the word automatic. "Got caught up talking to someone." He handed me a glass of champagne. "The auction's starting soon. There's a weekend at a lake house in Michigan I thought we might bid on. Could be nice to get away, just the two of us." I looked at him, this man I'd loved for nearly a decade, and saw a stranger. The casual lie. The perfect performance. Had our entire marriage been this hollow and I'd been too trusting to notice? "Sounds perfect," I heard myself say, taking a sip of champagne to hide the trembling of my lips. Later that night, as Nathan slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and made a decision. I wouldn't confront them, not yet. First, I needed proof, something concrete enough that neither of them could deny it. Something that would validate the betrayal twisting like a knife in my chest. I needed the truth. In their own words. The opportunity came 3 weeks before Olivia's wedding. Nathan was in Seattle for a conference, legitimately this time as I'd verified with his firm. I'd been helping Olivia with last-minute wedding details, swallowing my rage and hurt behind a mask of friendship. We were at her condo, finalizing the seating chart for the reception, when her doorbell rang. "That's probably the delivery from the invitation designer," she said, standing. "Would you mind checking the proof while I sign for it?" "The mock-up's on my desk in the study." I nodded, heading down the hallway to the small room she'd converted to a home office. The proof was indeed on her desk, alongside a sleek silver digital recorder, the kind journalists use for interviews. I might have ignored it completely if not for the post-it note stuck to it. "Foren, listen first." My hand moved before my brain could process what I was doing. I pressed play. Olivia's voice filled the small room. "Nathan, I'm recording this because I'm too much of a coward to say it to your face." I froze, finger hovering over the stop button. "James and I are flying to Florence next week for the final venue walkthrough. The wedding is happening. I know we talked about calling it off, about what could be possible for us after, but I can't do that to him." A pause, a shaky breath. What we've had these past 7 months, it's been everything. You understand me in a way no one ever has. But we were reckless. Meredith almost caught us at the gala. My free hand gripped the edge of the desk, knuckles white. "I love you. God help me, I do. But we both know this can't continue. After the honeymoon, once things settle, maybe we can talk about the future then, about how to handle our situation more carefully." Another pause. "I'll always regret not meeting you first. Before her. Before James. In another life, maybe we wouldn't have to hide. I just wanted you to know that." The recording ended. I stood frozen, the tangible proof of their betrayal humming in my palm. Footsteps approached down the hall. I quickly pressed the record button, slipped the device into my purse, and replaced it with my own nearly identical phone, which I'd used to record podcast interviews for my event planning blog. Olivia appeared in the doorway. "All good?" I smiled, the most painful smile of my life. "Perfect." For a week, I carried the recording with me everywhere, unable to listen to it again, but unwilling to let it go. I moved through my days like a ghost, planning client events, having dinner with Nathan when he returned from Seattle, even attending Olivia's final dress fitting. I was coming apart at the seams, but neither of them noticed. They were too wrapped up in their own deception to see mine. "You've been quiet lately," Nathan remarked one evening as we prepared dinner. "Everything okay with the Morrison wedding?" The Morrison wedding, my biggest client event of the season, happening just 2 weeks after Olivia's. I'd barely thought about it. "Just busy," I replied, chopping vegetables with methodical precision. "How was your day?" "Good. The Seattle project is moving forward." He hesitated. "I might need to go back next month for the final presentations." I set down the knife. "Will Olivia be going too?" The question hung in the air between us. Nathan's hand stilled over the cutting board. "What?" "Olivia," I repeated, my voice steady despite the roaring in my ears. "Will she be accompanying you to Seattle next month?" He turned to face me, expression carefully neutral. "Why would Olivia come to Seattle with me?" "I don't know, Nathan. Why would she?" A flicker of something, fear, anger, crossed his face before settling into confusion. "Meredith, what are you talking about?" I almost broke then. Almost pulled out the recorder and forced him to listen to his lover's voice confessing their affair. But some deeper instinct held me back. This wasn't the moment. "Not yet. Nothing," I said finally. "Just stressed about work." He studied me for a long moment before nodding slowly. "You should take some time off after the Morrison wedding." We both should. That night, I lay awake formulating a plan that crystallized fully when Zoe called the next morning about the technical setup for Olivia's wedding. Reception. "James's parents hired this fancy AV company," she explained. "They want to do a surprise video tribute for the couple. Since you're helping coordinate the bridal party, they asked if you could liaise with the tech team." A cold clarity washed over me. I'd be happy to. The chandelier lights dimmed as I stood at the back of the ballroom, remembering Olivia's voice on the recording. "I'll always regret not meeting you first." Before her. Before James, 300 guests watched expectantly as the screen illuminated. Soft piano music filled the room, the beginning of the professionally produced tribute video that would now never be seen. Instead, a simple black screen appeared with white text, a message from the bride to someone special. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Olivia's brow furrowed in confusion. Beside her, James squeezed her hand reassuringly, assuming this was the surprise his parents had planned. Then Olivia's voice filled the ballroom. "Nathan, I'm recording this because I'm too much of a coward to say it to your face." I watched as comprehension dawned on her face, followed by pure horror. Her head swiveled frantically, searching the crowd until she found Nathan at our table, his face drained of color. James's grip on her hand slackened as the recording continued. Guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Someone near the front tried to approach the couple, but James's father waved them back, his expression thunderous. "I love you. God help me, I do." Olivia lunged toward the stage as if she could physically stop the playback, but it was too late. Her secret, their secret, echoed through the stunned silence of the ballroom. "I'll always regret not meeting you first." Before her. Before James. When the recording ended, the silence was absolute. Hundreds of eyes darted between Olivia at the front of the room and Nathan, still seated at our table. I remained motionless at the AV console, a strange calm settling over me. James was the first to move. He released Olivia's hand and walked, not ran, but walked with deliberate steps, out of the ballroom. His parents followed, his mother already in tears. Chaos erupted then. Guests began gathering their things, voices rising in shocked conversation. Olivia stood frozen on the dance floor, her perfect white gown suddenly looking like a costume. Her eyes found mine across the room, and in that moment, recognition flashed between us. She knew it was me. Of course she did. Who else would have had access to the recording? Nathan remained seated, unable or unwilling to move as people streamed past him toward the exits. I finally stepped away from the console and approached our table. "How could you?" he asked, voice barely audible above the commotion. I looked at the man I'd loved for so long, still loved, despite everything, and felt nothing but exhaustion. "How could I?" I echoed. "That's really your question?" Before he could respond, Olivia appeared beside us, makeup streaked down her face, hands shaking. "You ruined my life," she hissed at me. "Do you understand what you've done?" I met her gaze steadily. "I played your own words, Liv, that's all." "We were going to end it," Nathan cut in, standing now. "It was a mistake." "7 months isn't a mistake," I interrupted. "It's a choice. You both made it, over and over again." Security appeared then, dispatched by the hotel management to handle the situation. The head of the team approached us, expression professionally neutral despite the obvious drama. "We've been asked to clear the ballroom," he said. "The groom's family has requested privacy." Olivia let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. "Privacy? Now they want privacy." I gathered my purse and wrap. "I should go." "Meredith, wait." Nathan reached for my arm, but I stepped back. "Don't come home tonight," I said quietly. "Or tomorrow. I need time to figure out what I want." Security escorted us separately to the exits. As I stepped into the cool night air, Zoe appeared at my side, having waited by the valet stand. "Holy shit," she whispered, linking her arm through mine. "That actually happened." I nodded, the adrenaline finally subsiding, leaving me hollow. "It did. Are you okay?" "No," I admitted. "But I will be." 6 months later, the cafe was busy for a Tuesday afternoon, the autumn sun streaming through tall windows. I checked my watch, then returned to the manuscript I was reviewing, a potential client's memoir that needed event planning for its launch. "Sorry I'm late," a voice said. I looked up to find James sliding into the seat across from me. "Court ran long." "No problem," I replied, setting aside my papers. "Thanks for meeting me." He looked better than the last time I'd seen him, at the lawyer's office where we'd both signed final divorce papers, his from Olivia, mine from Nathan. The shadows under his eyes had faded, his smile no longer strained. "How's the new firm?" I asked as the waitress brought our coffees. "Good. Different pace from corporate law, but I'm enjoying it." He stirred his coffee thoughtfully. "How about you?" "Zoe mentioned your business is expanding." I nodded. "Just hired 2 assistants. Turns out being known as the woman who exposed her cheating husband and best friend at a society wedding is great for publicity." He laughed, a genuine sound. I hadn't heard from him in the aftermath of that night. Silver linings. We fell into easy conversation, 2 people bound by shared trauma but moving beyond it. I'd reached out to him 3 months after the wedding, initially just to apologize for the public nature of the revelation. We'd met for coffee, both still raw but finding unexpected comfort in the one other person who truly understood. "Have you heard from her?" I asked finally, the question I'd been avoiding. James shook his head. "Not since the divorce was finalized. I heard she moved to Boston." He hesitated. "Nathan?" "He's still in Chicago. New firm, I think. I traced the rim of my mug. He sent a letter last month. Wants to talk. Are you going to?" I considered the question, one I'd been asking myself since the letter arrived. "I don't think so," I said finally. "There's nothing left to say." James nodded, understanding in his eyes. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you played that recording." "Even though it ruined your wedding?" "It saved me from a marriage built on lies," he corrected. "That's worth something." We finished our coffee and stepped out into the crisp autumn air. James hesitated, then said, "My sister's opening a gallery next weekend. Nothing fancy, just local artists. Would you want to come?" "As friends." he added quickly. I studied him. This man who'd been collateral damage in a betrayal neither of us had seen coming. There was no romantic spark between us, just the comfortable understanding of shared experience. But friendship? That seemed possible. I'd like that, I said. As we parted ways, I felt lighter than I had in months. The hurt hadn't disappeared entirely. I doubted it ever would, but it no longer defined me. I'd survived the dismantling of my marriage and my oldest friendship. I'd faced the worst betrayal imaginable and remained standing. My phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. Dinner tonight? New Thai place on Michigan? I typed back, absolutely. I have news. The sun warmed my face as I walked toward the lake, toward a future I was building on my own terms. The recording that had shattered my world had also strangely set me free. Sometimes the truth, as painful as it might be, is the only path forward. And I was moving forward, one step at a time.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.